Bible prophecy is active and unfolding daily. Zechariah 12, Isaiah 17, Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38. Here is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this week's newscast. From the Wall Street Journal, the CIA and its regional partners have drawn up plans to supply more powerful weapons to moderate rebels in Syria in the event the country's 6-week-old truce collapses, according to U.S. and other officials. The so-called Plan B centers on providing vetted rebel units with weapons to help them in attacks against Syrian regime aircraft and artillery positions. From the Telegraph, UK, the reconquest of Palmyra was presented as a victory for President Assad's Syrian Arab army. But analysis of photographs, social media posts, and Iranian, Russian, and Syrian media has shown that the path to taking Palmyra was led by Russian special forces and mercenaries, with much of the grunt work done by Afghan Shia and Iraqi militiamen under generals from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Abu Mohammed al-Halabi, a leader of the Levant Front fighting around Aleppo, told the Telegraph, quote, "Iran is sending in more troops. The regime doesn't undertake a serious attack without Iranian support." And, as of just this past Sunday, Iran has deployed the regular army in its first overseas operation since the 1979 revolution to bolster Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad amid fears in Tehran that Russia may agree to his removal. It sure is becoming more and more obvious how Iran is making use of that money it recently acquired through the nuke deal, my friends. From the New York Times, photos show how Brussels terror originated with ISIS in Syria. The latest issue of Dabiq, the Islamic State's slick online magazine published last Wednesday, includes an image of Najim al-Akhraoui, who was last seen wheeling a suitcase bomb into the Brussels airport. He's wearing military fatigues and standing next to a man with a bloody knife, suggesting that they had just beheaded a captive. The two men's uniforms exactly match those worn by the Paris attackers last year, as shown in another set of photographs shot somewhere in Syria or Iraq. From Reuters, the threat of attack by ISIS is on the rise in Brazil as the country prepares to host the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro in August, the National Intelligence Agency reported last Thursday. Now, from the Jerusalem Post, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned last Thursday of attempts to heat up the situation on the Temple Mount. Quote, "We know that there are attempts, even now, to change the downward trend in the number of Palestinian terror attacks. There are attempts, even now, to try to renew the agitation and violence, especially around Pesach and the Temple Mount, as we experienced earlier in October during the high holidays." Close quote. Netanyahu said that as the Pesach holiday is approaching, extremists are spreading lies about the Temple Mount to cause riots. Quoting Netanyahu again, "There is no change in our policy regarding the status quo on the Temple Mount." Close quote. Pesach, known in English as Passover, is one of the most commonly observed Jewish holidays. Pesach begins on the 15th day of the Jewish month of Nisan. That's this coming weekend. Agriculturally, it represents the beginning of the harvest season in Israel, but little attention is paid to this aspect any longer. The primary observances of Pesach are related to the exodus from Egypt after generations of slavery. That story is told in Shemot, that's Exodus, chapters 1 through 15. And many of the Pesach observances are instituted in chapters 12 through 15. The name Pesach comes from the Aramaic Hebrew root word, spelled Pe Samech Chet, meaning to pass through, pass over, to exempt or spare. It refers to the fact that Yahweh passed over the houses of the Jews when he was slaying the firstborn of Egypt. Look at Shemot, that's Exodus, chapter 12, verse 27. Pesach is also the name of the sacrificial offering of a spotless lamb that was offered in the temple on this Moed. I say Moed because it is really not a Jewish holiday. It really isn't a feast day, as so many like to think of it. In fact, it was and is a source of gaining knowledge about the first of Yahweh's 7 Kodesh appointments with mankind. These are not Jewish holidays, my friends. These are the Father's Kodesh, dedicated, appointments with the earth. And they are prophetic. Pesach specifically refers to when the spotless sacrificial Lamb of Yahweh, that is, Yeshua, our Messiah, he was crucified on this very day to pay for our trespasses some 2,000 years ago. Pesach was and is a prophecy about the Lamb of Yahweh. If you want to know more about the Father's prophetic Kodesh appointments with mankind, you'll see this graphic at the end of today's video. You can click on that, as well as a text link beneath this video in the More Info section. Also, if you want to gain some of the most powerful insights there are in the Bible, you will surely enjoy our study in the book of Romans. This Thursday we'll be covering chapters 4 and 5, but you can catch up if you haven't started watching. You can catch up with us by watching my videos that cover chapters 1, 2, and 3. Just click on this graphic that you'll see at the end of today's newscast. And as always, there'll be a text link beneath this video in the More Info section, and that'll take you over to the playlist where you can go there at any time, and you'll always see all the videos until we're finished with the book of Romans. I hope you'll join us. Turning to wars and rumors of wars. On Monday, April 11th, from BBC, ISIS had lost the town of Al-Rai last week in an assault by rebels fighting under the banner of the Free Syrian Army. But they reclaimed this strategically important town in northern Syria from rebel forces early on Monday last week. Al-Rai is close to the border with Turkey and is a key supply route into ISIS-held territory in the Aleppo province. Then on Thursday, April 14th, from the Washington Post, a surge in fighting across Syria on Thursday signaled the apparent collapse of the so-called ceasefire that was supposed to have taken effect in late February, but obviously kept staggering along until now. From ARA News, Iraqi army forces announced the liberation of the key district of Hit in Iraq's northern province of Anbar from the radical group of ISIS after several months of fighting. Local media sources confirmed that the Iraqi army forces have caused the ISIS group heavy losses in manpower and equipment during the last few days. The Iraqi security forces were able to capture a number of jihadis during confrontations with the militant group, while a number of civilians were killed and injured in the mutual bombings between ISIS and the Iraqi forces. On Monday, April 18th, from the Times of Israel, the Israeli military revealed on Monday last week that it had discovered and destroyed a tunnel burrowing from Gaza into Israel. This is the first tunnel to be discovered since Israel's 2014 war with Hamas. The tunnel extended about 100 meters into Israel and was lined with cement and outfitted with electricity, ventilation, and rail tracks to cart away dirt from digging. Israel's been developing a detection system to locate such tunnels, and the army reportedly used that system to discover this tunnel. From the Jerusalem Post, dozens of Hezbollah members were killed last week in Aleppo in an accidental chemical attack carried out by Syrian planes that attacked the town of Al-Ais, south of Aleppo. Turning to our Intifada update, on Thursday, April 14th, from the Times of Israel, two 12-year-old Palestinian boys were arrested in Jerusalem's Old City after police discovered 3 knives concealed in their coats. The Israel police said it appeared that the children were planning to carry out a stabbing attack since they were carrying a goodbye letter to their parents. Then, later in the day, a 54-year-old Palestinian from the West Bank attacked an IDF soldier with an axe before troops shot and killed him. The axe hit the soldier in the helmet, and the soldier was unharmed. On Saturday, April 16th, from Ynet News, Arab residents of East Jerusalem threw firebombs at police and border police in the Jerusalem neighborhood of Ras al-Amud, adjacent to the Jewish neighborhood of Ma'ali HaZeitim. Residents of Ma'ali HaZeitim say that such incidents occur almost every day. A video on Palestinian social networks shows firebombs being thrown, and one of the throwers being injured by a firebomb that was thrown by another Arab. Turning to our review of last week's news, the CIA and its regional partners have drawn up plans to supply more powerful weapons to moderate rebels in Syria. Iran has deployed the regular army in its first overseas operation since the 1979 revolution to bolster Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad and is sending in more troops to Aleppo. The threat of attack by ISIS is on the rise in Brazil as the country prepares to host the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro this coming August. Attempts to heat up Intifada attacks are expected this weekend and afterwards. The Israeli military discovered and destroyed a tunnel burrowing from Gaza into Israel. ISIS reclaimed the strategically important town of al-Rai in northern Syria. A surge in fighting across Syria has confirmed the collapse of the so-called ceasefire. Dozens of Hezbollah members were in Aleppo in an accidental chemical attack carried out by Syrian planes. Iraqi army forces liberated the key district of Hit in Iraq's northern province of Anbar. Two 12-year-old Palestinian boys who were planning to carry out a stabbing attack were arrested after police discovered 3 knives concealed in their coats. Arab residents of East Jerusalem threw firebombs at police and border police in the Jerusalem neighborhood of Ras al-Amud, and a 54-year-old Palestinian attacked an IDF soldier with an axe. And that, my friends, is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Abba willing, I'll see you here again next week. Until then, stay safe. Shalom.
Crowded rooms, I need more space than I consume. Enough is time alone with you, underneath the naked moon, sharing confidential moods and making chatter. Mockingbird nocturnal sings notations of eternal things, entering the quantum breeze, flying not for want of wings. He lights his gaze on you and me, simply because we matter.